Hello everyone, and welcome to the Tailored Acres YouTube channel. I'm Taylor and I garden in Wisconsin, Zone 4B, and my last frost date is May 15th. In today's video, I am going to talk about direct sowing for planting your seedlings for both vegetables and cut flowers. I am going to cover how to direct sow, cool season direct sowing, and warm season direct sowing. I'm also going to share my plan for what I will be direct sowing in my garden this year for both vegetables and cut flowers. But first, we're going to start with what is direct sowing. And that is when you're planting your seeds directly in the ground where you want the plants to grow. So there's a lot of benefits in doing it this way. There's no growing them on inside. There's no hardening off needed. And there's no risk in disturbing the roots and irritating the plant, shocking it. It's, setting it up for success straight away. Now, there are plants that you cannot direct sow, especially up here in the north. And those are plants that have long days to maturity. So we don't have that many days to grow here. So things that are reaching that 90-day of grow time are difficult for us to direct sow. So let's get right to it. I'm going to head out to the garden to show you what I've got going on out there and to give you some examples of how to direct sow here. So one thing that I would like to mention is that it is beneficial to get a soil test to know exactly what you should be amending your soil with to give your seedlings the best grow conditions and nutrients that they need to thrive. The first step before direct sowing your seeds is to prepare your soil. So some people do tilling. I did get a broad fork this year, so that's what I'm going to be using to aerate my soil, loosen it a bit more. But I have been really working on my soil a lot, and it's nice and fluffy. So you can see I have a little bit of compost on top. That's what I use for weed control. So that would be step one, is to make sure that your soil is ready to grow seeds. There are two different methods in which you can plant your seeds. So this is in a furrow, which I'm just going to take this and make a little line at the correct depth, plant my seeds, and then cover it back over. The other way is to make a little hole with for each seed that they're going to go in and cover it back up. Usually the rows or furrows are much more convenient and easier to do multiple at once. After you cover your seeds, you're going to want to thoroughly water them and then also keep them moist until they germinate. And then once they are seedlings, you're also going to want to pay extra attention to what water they're getting and what water they need. I have a complete drip system in my garden, and I do have another video detailing how I set mine up. It saves me a lot of time and energy. And don't forget to label your seeds once you have them planted. I'll put a link below into a little kit that I've been using with good success this year. One thing that's very important to get right when you're direct sowing is your seed spacing. And this information should be able to be found on your seed packet. Here it says plant spacing 18 to 36 inches. That's a pretty big range, but it kind of depends on what you are able to provide. So sometimes you can go down to that lower spacing and your plant just may not be as big. It may not produce as much fruit. So that depends on what your goals are with growing. The other thing that's really important on here is the seed depth. So this is important information because you either don't want to plant them too deep or too shallow, and each seed will have its own requirements. There are some things that are surface sow, which are a little bit more difficult because obviously if it rains, they can get washed away. So those are a little bit harder to do direct sowing, but you can still make it happen. All right, so that is it for the cool
how
flowers.
do I know when to direct sow seeds?
Another thing that I forgot to mention
and the
is
best time
when you're
to direct sow
sowing,
depends on
you
the
can
specific crop
overseed a little
and
bit
your local
because
climate.
you know you might not have perfect germination.
Seeds can be
what you're
divided into
planting.
two
So
groups:
if you do
cool season
overseed,
crops
you
and
will
warm
want to
season.
thin them.
The
to
cool
the
season can be
recommended
sown early in
spacing on the
spring
seed
as soon
packet.
as the soil is workable and the risk of heavy frost, which would mean like under 28 degrees, has passed. I typically do these seeds in late April or early May. Warm season crops should be sown after the last frost date or even a little bit after that when the soil has warmed sufficiently. Some seed packets will give you hints as to when they like to be direct sowed, but typically I'm waiting until that first or even second week of June to direct sow these warm loving seeds. Warm season crops are not frost tolerant, so make sure you're above 40 degrees at night.
Now for the fun part, I get to share with you what I'm going to be direct sowing this year. I'm going to start with the cool vegetables first. So the first one here is carrots. And I grew both of these last year. These are just like little chunkers. They're really cute. And then these ones here, Scarlet Nantes, these were delicious. These were my favorite ones. I probably actually will only grow this one this year. And this says you can direct sow it 3 to 5 weeks before last frost. Germination temperature is between 55 and 75 degrees. So these ones are great to start. It does say 65 days to maturity. Fun thing that I tried this year is I just left them in the ground until I needed them. And I need to get out there and see if they're any good anymore. But I've been harvesting them all winter as I need them because our winter has been so mild. So you can mulch them, put a tarp over them, I've seen people do. And it's basically like a root cellar for you. So those are really fun. Delicious carrots. Also, if you wait until it gets a little bit cooler outside, they usually get a little bit sweeter. So next we have lettuce. And I believe on this one it says, as soon as the soil is workable. And then actually this one, the salable mix, says after last frost has passed, which is interesting that they're different. Maybe just because they're a mix. So I have been doing these about the same time I do the carrots, which is, you know, early May is probably what I usually shoot for those. And there's all kinds of other greens that you can do. The lettuce that I'm doing this year is this butter crunch, and it kind of gets a head on it, which should make me harvest it easier. This like salad bowl mix I've done in the past, and I don't know, harvesting lettuce is a tedious task, and then you got to rinse it off for sand. So I'm usually not very good at keeping up with that. Okay, so our next one here is peas. So I got the big bag this year because I love peas. I love this variety. And I get these ones from Junk Seed. They're so good. The peas inside are really good by themselves. The outside is delicious. It's really tender but crispy. They're just like, they're perfect. So these ones also say you can do them outside as soon as the soil can be worked, which typically in a typical year around is like around April, late April, early May. So these ones will go direct sowed out to the garden, and I do plant these in rows, and I do usually like an inch apart. So you can either take like a tape measure or your hori knife, or just kind of guess. Peas, they don't have a big root system, so you can plant them really close together, and they're delicious. I do have two other varieties of peas, Green Arrow and Wando. So obviously they just kind of look like peas. So these I tried to do a fall crop last year, but they just didn't work out.
I may try again this year, try to troubleshoot and see why they didn't work for me. But I think I'm going to try a little bit of each one of these. I'm still, open to finding a new favorite pea. But the Cascadia has, hands down, has been my favorite so far. So that's all the direct sow cool vegetables that I will be doing this year. One thing I forgot to mention about the cool weather crops is that some of them need that cool weather to grow well in, like peas. They do not like it hot. So it's very beneficial to plant them out early because then they're growing in the temperatures that they like and they'll do a lot better for you. All right, now we're going to move on to the cool cut flowers that I'm going to be growing. So the first one here is bachelor's button. And I do also winter sow these, and I've had great success with that. So I am going to try to direct sow some this year as well out in my median garden, which I showed you earlier. The next one I have is blue plurum, and this is a new one for me this year. This is just like filler, and it does say on the back direct seed recommended, and so as soon as soil can be worked. So this will be probably like an April for me as well. It says germination 55 to 60 degrees, so it does need to be have some warmth to germinate these seeds. The next one we have is Persian cress. And I did transplant these last year. I started them inside 4 to 6 weeks early, and they got like really stringy and weird. So I'm just going to direct sow these this year. And that's what it recommends on the back of the pack. So we're going to follow the directions this year for those. My next one is new to me this year, and this is larkspur. And everywhere that I've seen is that they do the best when they are direct sown. It does give directions on here to start inside, but that will be a new one for me this year. The next one we have is also new for me, and this is Love in a Mist. And I got the Persian Jewel mix and direct sow into prepared beds, clear weeds, loosen soil, and rake seeds in. So those will be new for me this year, and they have beautiful seed pods. I'm very excited for those, and multiple uses is fun. So the next one is White Finch Orlea. I've seen so many videos with these in, and they're just gorgeous white flowers. And this one is direct seeding recommended. Sow a seed thinly in rows, covering lightly, and in early spring after danger of heavy frost. So these will probably be a May, and they say germination at 60 to 65 degrees for those. All right, the next one is sweet peas. And I probably will start some of these inside, and I also winter sowed them. These were seed saved from last year, so I'm going to see what method works best for me out of winter sowing, starting them inside, and direct sowing for the sweet peas this year. And then we have another new one, and this is black tip wheat. This is an ornamental grass. It's really cool. I'm hoping that it goes well in some fall arrangements, and it is a good dry flower as well. And on the back here, it does say direct seed about 4 weeks before last frost. So that's going to be about mid-April. So those will be fun to do as well. Okay, we are on to the warm weather direct sowing plants now. So I'm going to jump back to vegetables for this one. And sorry about my mess, but I got to stay organized here too. So first I have beans, and these are pole beans. They go on my cattle panel trellises that you saw earlier, and they are the Blue Lake variety. I did seed save these. I have a ton of them, so I'll be using those this year. I do also have the Blue Lake bush beans, which I direct sow after I harvest my garlic. And beans are nitrogen fixing in your soil, so that's a really good thing for your garlic because they are heavy nitrogen feeders. So that's a little bit of like, I don't know, companion planting, but kind of like crop rotation. And and that kind of a thing. So these will be getting planted in July. And last year was the first year I did that, and I got so many beans, and I was just so surprised that they still produce so many. And with any bean, the more you pick, the more they're going to produce. So make sure you're out there every few days picking as many beans as you can see. All right, the next one is this cantaloupe, and I have the Minnesota midget. And I grew these last year, and I mean, they were really small, like baseball size, which I don't know if they're supposed to be that small. I guess it doesn't say on here, but they were delicious. So I'm going to give that another go this year. And on this packet, it says you can either start indoors 3 weeks before last frost, or direct sow 1 to 2 weeks after last frost. So that's where we're hitting that June timeframe, which is typically when I am direct sowing most of this stuff, because we still have those rogue nights that we get frost, and most of these plants are not going to survive that. So you would have to cover everything you started. So don't be tempted to start these too early. Also with these, days to maturity, 75 days, that is enough time for these to mature still. But I probably will be starting some of these inside as well, just to give them that little bit of head start. So the next one I have is cilantro, and I had really good success direct sowing this last year, so I'm going to be doing that again this year. I have ambrosia sweet corn, and I may or may not end up planting this. I don't know that I have the best spot for it. I still got to kind of plan where I'm going to be planting everything. And the most important thing about corn is that it needs to be planted in a block, because it is pollinated from the tassels on the top to the corn stalks by wind. So you need plenty of space of corn for the wind to go through and grab that pollen to get it on the ears of corn. So that is important. And this one says 1 week after last frost for planting out. So again, that's almost into June. The next one we have is cucumbers. So there's a ton of different varieties of cucumbers. This tender sweet one was pretty good. I have like a bush cucumber that I'm also going to try this year, which I don't have over here. So that will be interesting. I've had mixed results with cucumbers in the last few years. So I'm going to be trying that bush cucumber this year. I'll probably direct sow some. I might start some indoors a couple weeks before last frost. So that's for cucumbers. And this one is a climber, so those ones went on the cattle panel trellis as well. I've got some dill that I'm going to start out in the garden as well. Parsley. And this year I'm going to be better about harvesting it when it's ready, chopping it up and just freezing it, because in the freezer it keeps just fine. Then I have pumpkins. I have a ton of different varieties of pumpkins that I'll be doing this year. And those are just fine to direct sow. And I'll be doing a video later in the summer, probably late June, about how I am combating my squash vine borers. It's been a battle with them, and last year I was finally successful. So stay tuned for that one. Also have Swiss chard, which I have not had super good luck with. A new one for us this year, we are trying watermelon, and this variety was recommended by a friend who also lives in Wisconsin. So this was her favorite variety that she grows. So we're going to give that a try. And my son was very excited about growing watermelon. I haven't in the past, just because it's like you see so many people that they have them split, or it's like it's a one fruit thing, and it's the kind of like a tomato, like you wait so long and then it splits and you don't catch it soon enough and it goes bad. So that's really devastating. So I'm hoping to have good luck with that for my son's benefit. So the last one I have here is zucchini, and I have the Black Beauty variety this year. I did also have squash vine borers getting into these the last few years as well. So growing those as well. So that's it for the warm season vegetables, and we'll talk about the cut flower warm season Next. Okay, so for cut flowers, there are quite a few things that you can direct sow. And again, you'll want to just look at that days to maturity. There are a lot that I start indoors because of the days to maturity. You want those cut flowers as soon as you can get them, right? So starting them inside is going to give you a lot of benefit to a lot of these. So the first one is basil that I am actually going to be direct sowing this one. So I have cinnamon basil and Mrs. Burns lemon. So these are both new to me, and I think that I am going to do a few succession plantings of this. So that means like I'm going to plant some right away, and then I'm going to wait a few weeks and plant some more, and so on and so on. Just because then you have a continuous crop going. So cinnamon basil, new for this year. Also new for this year, Pro Cut sunflowers. So I have Horizon, which is an upward facing bloom. And then I have Pro Cut White Light as well, which is a white sunflower. They're absolutely gorgeous. So these I am planting very close together. I think it was, I settled on like 2 inches so that the flowers should be really small. Because as you know, a big sunflower, like to try to fit that in a bouquet is kind of awkward. So I might do a few further apart, but most of these will be closer together to keep the flowers themselves small. And you can do that to any sunflower. Like the closer you plant them together, the smaller they're going to be. And I will also be succession planting those as well. Keep digging in the wrong box here. And then I have zinnias, and this is my favorite one. So I have like, I don't know, 20 different zinnias that I'm growing. So this Queen Lime Orange, it's absolutely gorgeous. It looks just like the picture. It's like a dream. They're so beautiful. My absolute favorite. So I'm growing the most of these. And I do start some inside, but I am going to direct sow some this year too, just to see what the difference in timing and blooms are. Because like, you know, the more you can direct sow outside, you know, it saves you time and energy inside. So those are those also. So a few honorable mention cut flowers that you can also grow outside, but that I start inside is celosia and cosmos. So cosmos, I've seen most people start outside, but I've had really good luck starting them inside and then getting super early blooms from them. So I'm going to continue to start mine inside. And, you know, if you're looking for just a cut flower garden, my recommendations would be, you know, the ones that you can direct sow, because it's going to reduce your effort and timing of everything else unless you have an indoor seed starting setup. So if you are going to start a cut flower garden this year, you totally can direct sow all of these things. Like we went over today and my honorable mentions, those are the ones that you would want to start with. It's going to be the easiest to just direct sow them and see how they work for you. So that is everything that I am going to be direct sowing this year. It's a lot. And I'm probably starting even more seeds inside. So I am always getting in over my head, and I absolutely love it. I love seeing the different varieties and how they grow for us up here in the north. So thanks for joining along. If you are a gardener that has experience and you have any tips or tricks for the rest of us, please share them in the comments below. You know, we're trying to develop a community here and share knowledge. We don't want to be gatekeepers. We want to share everything that we know. So I love hearing from all of you, and I'm really enjoying all of your comments so far. And thank you for joining. Take care.